I'm sorry, but I genuinely just can't stop laughing at this. I just found out what they actually claim, and I need you to hear this out loud because nobody has ever said this to you plainly. So, the heliocentric scientists claim that 13.8 billion years ago, there was a Big Bang. One event, one explosion, and that the light from that single event is still traveling through space right now, and we can still measure it today. Now, I want you to go turn off the lights in your house. Now tell me that those lights are still going to be emitting light in 13.8 billion years. You would never believe me. Not for 1 second. It doesn't matter if I told you it was nuclear light, quantum light, black hole light, special cosmological light. The moment the source stops, the light stops. That's not a theory. That is the most basic observable fact any human being has ever confirmed. Every single day of their entire life. When you shut the lights off, it gets dark. The only reason anyone believes the Big Bang light narrative is because they assume everything labeled science is automatically true. Now, this is the only explanation because there's no logic. None. There's no logic that gets you from the switch is off to the light is still on 13.8 billion years later. Light is a signal. It requires a source. When the source stops producing the signal ends. It's not complicated. This is a flashlight. This is a candle. This is every single light source ever observed by every human being who has ever lived. Now, the Big Bang is described as a single discrete event. It happened, it ended, and by their own model, the source of the energy no longer exists in the same form. And yet they tell you the signal is still traveling, still measurable, still detectable across the entire sky? Think about it. If I handed you a flashlight and told you to turn it off, and then told you the beam was still going to be visible in 1 billion years, you would hand it back to me and walk away. Even if I said it was still going to be visible like in an hour. But put the word cosmological in the same logic, and it gets a standing ovation at a university. So let's talk about what thermodynamics says. Energy dissipates over time. Entropy, always, without exception. This is so well established that it has its own law, the second law of thermodynamics. Energy in a closed system moves from order to disorder, from concentrated to dispersed, from detectable to undetectable. Now, your phone battery drains in a day. Some people it drains in a couple hours. A campfire burns out in a few hours. So everything loses energy over time. Everything. And then we get to the Big Bang, which supposedly released all of its energy 13.8 billion years ago. And that was from a single point. And they want you to believe that that energy is still measurable today as a consistent uniform signal of 2.725 Kelvin across the entire sky. Not faded, not degraded, not dissipated, consistent, uniform, detectable. That's not what 13.8 billion years of a dying echo looks like. This is what an active, continuously running local source looks like. Those are not the same thing, and no amount of cosmological language changes that distinction. So, the reason I think it's so funny is they have two completely separate sets of physics rules, and they hope that you never put them in the same room together. We have rulebook A, which is local physics. The sun produces light. The light obeys the inverse square law. Intensity decreases with the square of the distance. This is why the sun feels warm up close and why a star a few light years away is just a pinpoint, according to their model. Energy dissipates with distance, measurable, consistent, observed every single day. And then they have rulebook B, cosmological physics. They have the Big Bang, produced energy 13.8 billion years ago. That energy traveled across an expanding universe for longer than the Earth has existed, and it arrived here as a perfectly uniform detectable signal that we can measure with a satellite? Like, come on now. Seriously, think about it. Light is faster than matter. How is the light not gone? And it's the same universe. Same energy. Two completely different sets of rules depending on which narrative needs protecting. And they're both narratives, option A and option B. Because that's not under the ancient Hermetic principle of as above, so below. You cannot tell me light from the sun obeys the inverse square law, and then tell me light from the Big Bang gets a special exemption. Pick one rulebook, apply it consistently. The moment you do, the Big Bang light narrative collapses completely. Oh, and it gets better. They also tell you the universe is expanding. In fact, they tell you the edges of the universe are expanding faster than the speed of light. So maybe light's not the fastest speed you can travel? So let's follow that logic together. The Big Bang releases a pulse of energy traveling at the speed of light. The universe expands faster than the speed of light, which means the expanding universe has been outrunning that light pulse since the very beginning. If their own expansion model is correct, we should be living in total darkness right now. The light pulse from the Big Bang should have been left behind by the expanding universe billions of years ago. But we're not in darkness. The sky is full of light from the sun. Bright, consistent, measurable light. So either the expansion model is wrong, or the Big Bang light model is wrong. Or they're both wrong. What is not possible is that both are simultaneously true. They cannot both be right. They contradict each other directly. And mainstream cosmology holds both of them as established fact simultaneously without ever putting them in the same sentence. I turned my lights off. They're still on 13.8 billion years later. You wouldn't believe me if I told you that. You shouldn't believe me if I told you that. Because energy doesn't work that way. Light doesn't work that way. Physics doesn't work that way. The CMB, axis of evil, the cosmic microwave background that I just did a video on recently, the supposed echo of the Big Bang, is a consistent uniform detectable signal measured at exactly 2.725 Kelvin across the entire observable sky. That's not an ancient dying echo. That's an active source. A continuously running local machine producing a stable output right now in real time. They built an entire cosmology to explain why the switch is off, but the light is still on. They called it science. They put it in textbooks. They gave people Nobel Prizes for measuring it. And I'm not saying there's nothing to be measured. I'm just saying their conclusions are absolutely wrong, in my opinion. But you already know the answer. You've known it your entire life. Every time you walked out of a room and flipped the switch. When the source stops, the signal ends.